So the first one I see that we haven't touched on yet was from Stephen Gasser, who was asking who's on the district grants committee. That's a great question, actually. I think we used to introduce everybody almost by name. Occurs to me that this is a bit of an omission here, but got myself acting as the Rotary District Foundation chair this year. And rolling under sort of my broad umbrella, we have the District Grants Committee, the DGSC as we call it, District Grants Subcommittee, currently chaired by Jamie Moorhouse from the Rotary Club of Airdrie, who's actually interested in stepping down from that role. And if there's an opportunity to get involved for sure in the District Grants Subcommittee. Next, we have under the DGSC, there are two teams that are basically teams for looking after the DDF associated with the global grants. Till now, that team has been led very ably by Bob Weens of the Rotary Club of Stampede Park. We also have kind of his counterpart looking after the district grants is Ola Tui, who you will be hearing from a little bit later. He's the district project grants team lead, and he's from the Rotary Club of Heritage Park. We have Andrew Bronson, who looks after the travel grants. You'll be hearing from Andrew in a little while. Hendrik and Jose, representing their respective projects, are also both members of the District Grants Subcommittee. We have Kurt Kowalchuk, who you'll be hearing from towards the end of the presentation, looks after all of the reporting requirements. Kurt actually wears a second hat, not directly part of the granting committee itself, but there is an overarching stewardship committee that is primarily Kurt as well. And that's really the group. And then there are various project reviewers who come and go as we look at various things. So it's an active group with a lot of work on its plate. Put the pitch out now. We're always looking for more people to get involved. The learning curve for all of this can be quite steep. And I'm always more than happy to talk about grants in relation to, or talk to people in relation to grants about anything that comes up. From Garfield, hi Garfield. Well, I haven't chatted with you in a while. Does an MOU have to be signed each year with the district? The answer is a resounding yes. In absolute terms, the MOU itself really doesn't change substantially from year to year, but the MOU itself has to be executed by two parties, actually. The president-elect of the Rotary Club, so the president coming in for the 26-27 Rotary year, and the president nominee for the year following. Because our projects can typically span over 2 years, by the second year of the project, the person who's currently sitting as the nominee will ultimately end up being the president of the club at that point in time. So therefore, we require those two signatures. I often hear, that we don't know who our nominee is early enough in the cycle. It's not a problem. As soon as you know who your nominee is, let us know. We'll prepare the appropriate MOU and get them to sign. The other thing that happens is it an issue if one of either the president-elect or the nominee changes subsequent to the signing of the MOU? Happens all the time. We would just get you to revise, and we'll have you submit an updated MOU with the correct names as you know them. Will you share the clubs participating in the individuals? This is a question from Dan. Will you share the clubs participating in the individuals within the clubs approved? I can certainly give you an indication as to who the clubs are. I've got the list of who signed up today, but I will then, after the fact, actually have to look and see who actually turned up. as things happen. We had 145 people register for the session today. There are only 115 online. Ultimately, we can provide those lists, but it'll take me a bit of a time to collate those. From Randall. Are the dates the same for the global grants? They sort of are, but there's a little bit of difference to them. So as we get into this, we're going to say that there's an application date for the global grant DDF. So in effect, what we're kind of saying is that you can start applying for your global grants anytime, but we won't actually start looking at them until that date of March 15th that we talked about. Um, but what tends to happen though is as the grants year goes on, other additional applications can come in and they can be looked at almost on uh, as they arrive, sort of a basis. There's some rules around that, which we'll get into in the global grants piece of it. Essentially, March 15th will be the date at which we start looking at the priority ones. If additional priority runs come in after the fact, we can look at those. But of course, it's largely first come, first served. Come a certain date in July, we can start looking at second priority grants that clubs have. And after that, there's an opportunity for priority three grants, typically around September again. Within those parameters, first come, first served. And we will continue running through that cycle until either we've granted all projects or the grant funds run out. Block grant is a little different in that these get bundled together and transmitted as a group. So what we typically see is March 15th is the deadline for applying for granting as part of the block grant, and that whole block moves forward as a group, as I've said. So March 15th is more like a ending date, if you want to say it that way, than it is a starting date for those kinds of grants. There's an opportunity to run a second round of grants in the fall, so in around September, assuming there is enough DDF available to cover those. And in recent years, there hasn't been much left after that first batch of block grant applications is processed to really entertain a robust second grant. And I expect the same will happen this year. From Michelle McDonald, can you show that last slide again, please? Unfortunately, Michelle, I'm not sure which one it was. So if you want to reach out, I can let you have another look at it again. From Brian, will our grant consider setting aside funds for the Rotary Peace Center? We'll certainly consider it. What we're finding is that the same time that the amount of DDF available for global grants is declining a little bit due to the sort of the participation of Rotarians in the district. The demand for them is increasing. So we're finding increasingly we're having to stretch the dollars, and the Peace Center is kind of one area where we think that we might have to make a sacrifice. Hate to see it, but we want to ensure that there's as much of DDF available for global grants as we can. Um, Not sure if you're asking whether or not we can request a contribution to the Peace Center or request to participate in the program. We can explore that one, Brian, offline. I know that many clubs, this is an anonymous one. I know that many clubs are encouraging donations to foundations such as Canmore Foundation rather than RI. Is this something the district could intervene or talk to clubs about, as they're feeling that donations to RI do not come back to the club level? I guess the only way I can really answer that is to reiterate on some of the messages that we got here is that the grants, that the contributions made to the Rotary Foundation do come back to the district in terms of these district grants. There is leveraging available, so we think it really represents a great opportunity to do good in the world. But we recognize that there are other charities as well. So I would say that's a personal or a collective decision of the club. But in reality, I do think the TRF route does give you a very, very solid bang for the buck. The Rotary Foundation itself is recognized as one of the premier charities in the world. Be happy always to talk to clubs about where the money goes. Feel free to invite me anytime. Be more than happy to come out to a club meeting if appropriate to talk in more detail about the Rotary Foundation. With constant changes to the exchange rate between US and Canadian dollars, what's the best way to financially plan around this for fluctuating project costs? This is a real thorn in people's sides. Happens all the time. Um, all I can say is plan for contingency. You may have noticed when I showed the district block grant slide that the district block grant itself does allow for some contingency. And as I mentioned, the district block grant is denominated in Canadian dollars, so that block grant does get hit with the currency fluctuations, and that is why we have the contingency in the block grant. Probably something very similar has to be built into the planning for your global grants as well. This might be a good opportunity to replug for the District Resource Network and Barb Young in her role as the DIC. They've had lots of experience working with global grant projects. Might have some tips and tricks available for you as well as to how you can build the appropriate contingency into your project for the fluctuations in the dollar. Comment about understanding future funds but not past committed. Yeah, there's a large question around unused grants. So kind of the way I would say it is really that the DDF that we apply to the global grants is really almost like a bookkeeping or a ledger entry. So we basically got a pool of money and we can assign that to the various project grants, sorry, the various global grants. But one of the challenges is that the global grant application process can take a long time. So the various projects can sit in a draft state, as it were, for in some cases, a number of years. And in some cases, the project ultimately stalls out and never goes ahead. So part of the exercise that we've been working through over the past long, long time has really been looking at the various projects that are in progress over the applications that are sitting unapproved for extended periods of time, trying to understand whether those projects are just taking a while because it takes a while, or whether these have actually stalled, or whether these have been abandoned. And in the case of a project that's been abandoned, potentially that DDF can be reclaimed and reallocated back to a future project. This is how we're trying to address the increased demand for global grant projects is to ensure that every dollar that we have allocated is put to the best possible use. There are rules around what happens with project funding that's sitting unallocated or unapproved in various buckets going back 5 years. I've got entire presentations on that. Won't get too far into those weeds. Suffice to say that it is not easy to know. It takes a lot of work. And it's something that myself, and of course, kudos to Kurt Kowalchuk for all of his help in this, just to try and find and leverage and maximize every dollar that we've got. Uh, How do candidates find out about the Peace Fellowship program? That's really a question in advertising. I don't have a ready answer for that one other than just to, make you aware of the team and the leads and direct people to the appropriate websites where that information can be found. From the anonymous, why are they all going to the US? I think that's probably just the luck of the draw.
Correct. That's the exactly
Yeah,
what the situation is. So if you
yeah,
look at the longer list, we've sent people to many different places in Europe over the years, and it was an odd fluke that everybody that we selected this year went to the States.
yeah. Okay, thank you, Hendrik. An org chart would be great along with the handouts. Uh, Anonymous, I agree. I had that thought. I was answering the earlier question. I will put one together and post it on the website for people. So thank you for that. How do smaller clubs participate with larger clubs? Planning and oversight would be difficult with limited personnel. I'm going to get into all of that in the next section, so I'll delay that for now. When will the MOU, Michael Moore, be available for download? This afternoon, pretty much at the end of this session here. Um, Deadlines for global grants are clear. Are there similar deadlines for district grants? Sorry if I missed it from Lynn. Yes. There are deadlines for the district grants, which was kind of that timeline we walked through earlier. Because the district grants have to be assembled into a package and presented to TRF as a package or a block, as we call it. We ask for those to be submitted around on the 15th of March. That then gives myself and Ola and his team really 2 months to go back and forth with the projects that are in the block grant list to collect all of the information that we need that is missing. That happens a lot. So the more complete your application is, the faster we can go through it. But just remember, this is a chain and it's basically bound by the weakest link, if you wish to say it that way. That's why we pretty much need the 2 months from the middle of March to the middle of June to get that block grant whipped into shape, approved by the district, and forwarded on to TRF. So the deadline for inclusion is in fact March 15th. From John, maybe the donation is an average. That is correct. It is. It's a per capita average. Folks donating more help raise the bar for everyone in the club. Absolutely right. Are there any TNR initiatives or funding? I'm not sure what that means, Anonymous, but yes, there are standard terms and conditions for the Rotary Foundation that I will post on the club website. I just had a look at them the other day. The ones that are on the website are in fact current. And then there's a district document that's been prepared that basically offers interpretation, if you will, around those, and you can download those also. From Sheila, I encourage non-Rotarians to use Rotary Foundation as their charity of choice. So thank you for the question, Sheila. Is there a way to track their donations through district so that the 50/50 comes back? Yes, there are. TRF actually produces a wealth of reports on this. I'm not sure they're necessarily available to rank and file, if you will, Rotarians, but anybody who's interested in seeing them can certainly reach out to me and I can provide them for you. I spend a lot of my time actually looking at TRF reports and benchmarks on these items. So yes, they exist, and yes, they can be made available. From Emmanuel, I know why you're asking this one. What happens if an application misses the first block in June? Typically, we work through them and we'll put them at the head of the list for the second block. Um, I can speak to your particular VTT in question. We're just about ready to submit that to TRF. In fact, the holdup here is basically district reporting. But anything that doesn't quite make the cut in June, in June for that block grant submission, can certainly be considered for the next round. And in your case, Emmanuel, it is. TNR, Truth and Reconciliation. Thank you for that. Does the project get rolled into next year, or is there no standard procedure? No, no, it actually gets rolled into a second block round application, second round in the fall, provided funds are available. And from Bev Thompson, thanks for all your time working with your team on all your efforts on this committee. That's the end of the questions I've got. I think I'm going to pause them here on the chat from Rotary. I'm not sure if that's Rob Wilson's question, but why don't we treat RAFW and RIAC, RILA, and RIPEN as all the same youth program? It's an interesting question. So I'll just kind of talk a little bit about the programs. So RILA and RIPEN are in fact Rotary programs. You'll find them pretty much anywhere in the world. Their purpose is a little bit different, though. So RILA is really aimed at young people who are starting to show some aptitude for leadership. So the RILA program is really designed to try and incubate leaders. The RIAC program is a little bit different. It's really designed around trying to provide opportunities for youth that might be described as disadvantaged. So two different programs, kind of different focus to them. You have to look also at the eligibility criteria. I think the age ranges are slightly different for the two programs. RIAC is unique to our district. So that's the Alberta, the A is Alberta Youth Education Camp. This is a fantastic program that's run locally at a camp, and typically it's actually the camp is located south of Medicine Hat. And it's designed to, again, incubate young entrepreneurs. It's a pretty intense couple of days where young people are exposed to various business leaders and actually go through a bit of an exercise in envisioning, how an enterprise might start up and operate. So the programs all kind of have different focuses to them. The RAFW, I'm not even familiar with that one. But that's why they kind of are all treated separately. And different clubs, will, uh, especially some of the ones that are a little bit physically closer to RIAC, will want to sort of sponsor the RIAC program, and others really focus more on RILA and RIPEN, which are kind of true Rotary programs. So they are different, can't really be combined. But the key word here is that, those three programs are really, sort of at the core of what those youth program grants can support. In terms of attendance. Just looking at that, I heard too. So here's a question from Randall Dick. I think I understand what you're asking, Randall. So if I said the total maximum number of district grants is 3, what I'm actually trying to say here is that the maximum of each type of grant that one can apply for is 2. So we'll set aside the travel grants for a second because they are a little bit different, but you could conceivably apply for 2 undergraduate youth scholarships plus 2 youth programming grants plus 2 district community projects. And if you really got creative, even 2 VTT type projects for a total of 8. I have never seen a club do that before, but it's not to say that, so there's a maximum of 3, and you can apply for 2 of the others. That only leaves you 1 left for the other type. It's really, and don't forget, these are the district uh, uh, the district projects exclusively we're talking about here. We're not talking about global grants at all, but you could conceivably apply for two of each kind on the menu. There's a suggestion here, make the amount of the grant relative to the number of members in the club applying for the grant. It's a very interesting idea. I would have to think about that one quite considerably. Kind of our overarching philosophy here, I'll just say this, is to really ensure that all the clubs in the district really get the same opportunity to apply for grants. So we really kind of say at the level of the district project grants, each type is to ensure that the funds are actually distributed in such a way that as many clubs as participate as possible can participate. Question from Beulah here. We used to write the scholarship checks to the institution the recipient is going to study. In recent years, we've been asked to write the check to the recipient directly. I'm not sure, Beulah, if you're referring to the fact that the school itself is asking for this, because it is still uh, our strong preference to have the check actually sent to the institution. So I'm not sure what you mean. The institution finds it easier to write the check to the recipient. If the institution is insisting on that, we'll find a way to work around it. That seems unusual to me. Question, can you give examples of community development grants? They're really all kinds. So kind of the watchword is, um, and this is really in contrast to the global grants, which we'll talk about later. The global grants will typically be, as you see, a sort of an international type effort involving an invitation from a host club in country and an international partner, which is the Rotary Club here. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But for these district project grants, there's only one club involved, so we don't need to find an international partner. The kinds of project grants that can be applied for, though, are really quite diverse. So it could be about, finding, a bit of construction that needs to happen somewhere, for example, in your own community. So the grant could actually be used to purchase building supplies. What we want to see, though, is that the Rotarians themselves are actively doing work on the project. Um, there's home renovations in Latin America I can think of. There are projects involving, refurbishing and sending emergency vehicles and donating them to countries in Central America. We've seen that kind of thing before. We've seen interpretive signage, local community park enhancements, playground construction, contributions to libraries, all those kinds of things have been involved, have seen the involvement of district project grants. Um, you're really almost limited by your own imagination. You're just recognizing that kind of the sort of the key elements are with the district project grant, you can run it as a local initiative. You can run it in another country. You can pool with other Rotary clubs in the district to create a larger grant. Each club's maximum grant is the $7,500 that Ola was mentioning earlier. Um, Typically, the grants are used to buy things, but not exclusively because the project should have active engagement of Rotarians in it. And you have to, in most cases, find a cooperating organization to partner with. And one of the things that we look for in the application form is that you've got a letter of participation from a cooperating organization that actually spells out what it is that your club is going to be doing for them, what the organization is expecting from Rotary and what they're bringing to the table as well. If you have two P1 grant applications, you apply for any number of P2 grants. I think Randall, we may want to follow this one up directly, you and myself a little bit later. But basically, for each type of grant, call it the District Community Development Grant, you've got one P1 and one P2. Can local grant initiatives be funded with AGLC funding? That's a difficult question. Um, I will say it depends, but I'm leaning no. And we would have to look specifically at the details of what you have in mind to figure out if that can be made to work or not. Is the priority for community development funds only? We apply for undergraduate scholarship and community development. Are they prioritized? No, they're really, if you want to say it this way, Beulah, they're really separate buckets, and we kind of treat each bucket equally. We've been very fortunate over the years that by and large, the demand for our projects is roughly equal to the funding available. So in any given year, we typically see approximately 70 projects go into the block grant. Typically, they're weighted most heavily in terms of the community development grants. We typically will see roughly 15 scholarships and roughly 10 youth program grants in a year, and usually the rest of them are comprised of community development grants. But we would not necessarily, if you want to say it this way, disadvantage the undergraduate scholarships to try and provide additional funding for the community development grants. They're all really weighted equally. To Andrew, is there any consideration for revising the district travel grant forms? I imagine you know who we're talking about here. As you saw from mine, I had a lot of trouble confirming exactly how to complete them. I found it rather vague, part repetitive, digital signatures was probably not active. You want to take a stab at that one, Andrew?
Yeah, and it's interesting, and appreciate the question. Also, how much work Craig and Jamie have done on the website. And one of the little glitches is because these funds are sort of a pool separate and can be applied for anytime, some of the buttons, I'll call them, on the website aren't active. So some of Bill's frustrations are the fact that he has to go spend the money after he gets approval, goes on the trip, submits the receipts, and then the funded button doesn't work yet because his expenditures have to be approved first. So I think because of the scrutiny of TRF, I think we're kind of stuck with this sort of duplicate, awkward scenario right now due to the restrictions. And maybe somebody one day would change this, but for now there is a lot of duplication in that. And and I'll help walk anybody through this.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. It's an interesting question too about the forms. So the paper forms yeah, or the Word document PDF forms haven't really been updated in a while because we're actually trying to phase them out. We're trying to move towards having people submit their reports using the online forms in the grants module. But Bill, you uncovered an issue that Andrew you've spoken to, and that is that we really haven't adequately addressed how to apply, how to report on a district travel grant on the website because they're relatively few and far between. So what I guess I'd say to Bill is we should try to work towards making sure the website works appropriately for handling your travel grant reporting. And if we get stuck, then I will update the PDF form to try and make it easier. We're always looking for the easiest way to help people get their reporting requirements completed. And I apologize, Bill. I know you've had a rough time on this. We'll aim to make it easier for you for the next time. There's an anonymous question around AGLC funding. I'm just going to say that is such a complicated issue that I really don't want to take a lot of time right at this moment to try and delve into the weeds. If the anonymous user would like to reach out to me, we can probably have a more of a direct conversation around what exactly we're looking at and what kind of a recommendation I can make for you. But I do want to get to the question from Lori Foran from my club. It's a good one. She's asking, can a district VTT grant be used as the DDF required to apply for a global grant VTT? And this allows me to actually jump in with a big no. So one thing we need to be very careful about is that you cannot mix and match district project grants with global grants at all. So that's a real big red flag. But if you look at the VTTs, they actually do come in two flavors, as Ola mentioned. So there is a VTT that's like a dedicated district project grant. It's a $7,500, just like the community development grant. There is also the opportunity to add a VTT component to a global grant, and we'll get into that in the next section. But just recognizing, first of all, you cannot mix and match global and district project grants in any way, but there is sort of a district project grant VTT and a global grant VTT, completely separate from each other, and the global grant VTT is available to you. From Randall, can you add a travel grant to a VTT so that the maximum number? Again, we don't like seeing these things mixed and matched. The travel grant, I'll even let Andrew comment on it or correct me. The primary purpose, I think, for a travel grant is really to facilitate the travel that would enable a community assessment, which is by and large one of the key inputs into a global grant application. Uh, the VTT is a very different reason to travel. It's first and foremost about going to deliver some kind of training and even to receive some kind of training. Both are allowed, but you're either going to deliver or receive training, in which case it's a VTT, or you're going to do a community assessment, in which case it's a travel grant, and you really can't mix the two of them together. Did you want to add anything to that, Andrew?
Oh, I think that, and it just to add to it, I guess a little would be theoretically, I guess you could use a travel grant to bird dog a VTT, or which, especially if it was part of a global grant, but they're very separate. And please keep them separate.
And when you mix these things together, all you do is invite all kinds of questions from TRF, which
Yeah.
slows everything up. Travel grant, what's in place to ensure that the project moves forward and is not just a trip for a Rotarian to visit a club?
I'll answer the four-way test.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll just add, I think you need to be fairly clear in the reason that you're going on this trip. As Andrew mentioned earlier, you're probably going to have, well, not probably, you're going to have a letter of invitation from the host Rotary Club that you're going to visit. It's going to state why this trip is happening. And in most cases, it's looking like I'm going to this club to do a community assessment. From Tom Morris, just to confirm, the maximum amount of the grant for community is 10,000, no matter the size of the project. Do I have that right? So just kind of to comment on the 10,000. So the total size of the project is 10,000 with a $2,500 Canadian contribution from the club, matched 3-to-1 that gets you a $7,500 grant. So in effect, the 2.5 plus the 7.5 equals 10. is the maximum grant that we are going to give you. But if the project is bigger, then this is a grand opportunity to start considering pooling. So where you get a couple of clubs together pooling their resources. So that $10,000, if you want to think of it this way, is $10,000 per club. But if the project is larger and you've got 3 or 4 clubs collaborating together on it, each one of those is eligible for a $7,500 grant. And we've seen projects in the district where between 8 and 10 clubs have gotten together and pooled their funds to achieve a grant of considerable size.
Craig, if I can add something there,
Please
coming
do,
from the
Kurt. Yeah.
reporting perspective, the answer is your club can contribute however much it wants to the project. The minimum you need to contribute to get the 7,500 is 2,500. Your club can add another $5,000 or whatever. When we look at the reporting, we only look to ensure you spent at least $10,000 on the activity.
Thank you, Kurt. A couple more questions here, then I think I'll give people a chance to recharge their cups. You covered this, but can you please repeat the maximum funding per project on the district project grants? If pooling is it, bother clubs, does the allocation increase? So really the two matches that we've got, so one is for the scholarships and youth programs. So that's a $1,000 contribution from the club will net a $2,000 district project grant. And then there's the community development and the VTTs, where a $2,500 club contribution will match 3 to 1 to give a $7,500. And again, this is Canadian dollars. Project grant. The only way to leverage this really is for clubs to pool grants. Now, the size of the project, the number of clubs really doesn't shift that allocation in any way. Response on the undergraduate club, we prefer to write the check to the institution for the scholarship, and the institution can write the check to the recipient. Please confirm this is the process. Yes, it is. It is far easier for all involved if the scholarship check is directed directly to the institution. And just a comment from Gail back to Beulah's question. In their situation, the funds are paid to the student because it is a reimbursement. The college had already been paid. Yeah, I know that can happen. And from Darcy, this is a really kind of specific question. I'm not sure that I can provide a ready answer. Is AGLC funding tied to the approval of the use of proceeds attached to the club's license? As I look at the question, I can't give you a ready answer to that one. I think it depends, and the situation does need to be looked at.
Craig, if I can just interject a quick thing.
Yeah,
In
sure.
my travels across the district, visiting clubs, I often hear about clubs participating in AGLC activities, namely casinos. And
Yes.
there's always questions about how can we use these funds, or we're allowed to do this or not allowed to do that. I think maybe what the district can do is reach out to AGLC and see if a representative can do a presentation to our clubs, and we could hold a seminar like this just for Rotarians to get clarity on what are all the requirements. So I'll speak to my DG stream about that and see if there's anything we can do collectively on behalf of all the clubs to get something organized to get the information.
Yeah. All I can really offer is I think this is a little bit tangential to what I can offer today. I think Manuel, that's a fantastic idea. I would sign up for a session like that in a heartbeat.
Craig, it's Barb. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if, I'm sorry about my noise in the background, but I'm wondering if it's been possible to sort out the issues around how much funding is in the pot.
Kurt, do you want to tackle that one? I know you and I have been working on a lot on the.
So I'd ask, what part are you talking about to start with? That wasn't clear. Barb?
I'm talking about any additional funds that might be available for use towards global grants, which weren't part of this year's amount sent by TRF.
Okay, well, actually, some of the remainder, so there is a remainder in the exact, I mean, Craig, you've been working on the number, but I'll talk a little bit. One of the things first of all, some of the funds we received, well, got allocated this year, we never received those funds, have already not been used in that one of the projects is being canceled by the applicants. And that's one of the reasons where we get more funds available for other projects is when uh, the the clubs involved decide not to move forward with the global grant project and they cancel it. So we have funds available. The other thing that happens is that funds are applied for, say, 4 years ago, and this happened, and it's been left open in draft. And the club has decided not to move forward, but hasn't told anybody. And so we've been, as Craig said, going back, we being the royal we, Craig and Jamie have been going back to clubs going, hey, what's happening here? This is global grants being in draft for 4 years. For some reason, it hasn't been canceled by TRF. I don't understand because normally they would be. Are you really going forward with it or not? And so it's been chasing these down. And that's the source of the money from previous years. And in fact, one of the big ones was last year, the year before, we had a global grant that had 5 clubs involved that was withdrawn. So significant funds came back into the pool for global grants. Craig, do you have a current DDF available for global grants number right this moment?
Let me see if I can find that. Because I know you and I have been working on a sheet that sort of shows something, into the hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially available. But my question really was, should not the district block grant come off that?
No, well, no.
Okay.
Well, it already is off of that, Craig. If again, so we're sidetracking on the mechanics. It is already
Yeah.
off of that.
Okay. Well, let me see if I can find that then.
While Craig is searching, Kurt, can you comment on when a person starts a global grant? My understanding was that a timer starts. Is that correct? Because these grants sitting in draft
Well,
should have disappeared.
I totally agree. There is a timer, supposed to be a timer, and in most cases they do. They get marked as, I think it's with canceled by TRF, should do. But there have been some, and we found one that was 4 years old sitting in draft that hadn't been canceled by TRF for whatever reason. So yes, there is a timer, and yes, have seen grants canceled by TRF for not hitting the timeline set by TRF.
Okay.
Again, should be, but for whatever reason, TRF's timer didn't work.
Because I was expecting that on one of my grants and I never had to redo it. It took a long time to get all the bits and pieces for the grant. And I mean, it, anyway.
Anyway, and sometimes when you are dealing and actively involved with the TRF representative, I'm guessing that they periodically push the date forward on their end.
I wonder if there is a timestamp on when you make edits to your grant application.
There is.
In case the, you know, the timer restarts every time you make a change. And if it sits dormant for X period of months, then it gets canceled.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't. Yeah.
It'd be great to get clarity on that. I don't know if Barb, maybe as our DISC, maybe you can ask your other DISC colleagues if they've encountered that or what the scoop is. Somebody from TRF should be able to give us a firm answer on that because it's a system. So there's got to be a rule operating somewhere in the program that does that.
Yeah, that's one of the advantages of this DISC position is that we have a network of DISCs, so we can benefit by the experience of other people in other districts and what they have found. And they're often asking us because we've got so much more going internationally, what we're doing as well. So it's a back and forth, which is really good. And I can ask that question.
Thanks, Barb.
Yeah, just looking at the chat session here for some of the folks that are still on the line. There's a question here about any accommodation for working in international communities that don't have a Rotary club to serve as the host club.
Well, now I can answer that question because our club became the host club for a project in Vietnam where the international club was in Washington State in the United States. And through personal connections of some of our members, we hooked up with them. And in Vietnam at the time, there were no Rotary clubs. And our club served as the international host club, the host club for the project, determining the position and training children on avoiding landmines. And as a consequence of this project, actually now there are a number of Rotary clubs in Vietnam. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, a bunch of comments here, people having to leave at noon. And I know, Randall, you and I have been having a couple of sidebar conversations, so I thought it'd be just as easy to invite you to join into this chat. So does everybody know Randall Dick, who is the new grants person from the Heritage Park Club?
Hey.
And the first question, well, the most recent question that you asked, is there any chance of giving a live demo on making and closing a grant, or let us know when this schedule and the session can be scheduled? I think just after Christmas and early in the new year is probably the most appropriate time to do that, just based on when people really get rolling on this. So that's my recommendation, would be we do one early in the new year.
I will be closing a grant, a global grant in the new year. So if you want to use that as an example, I can show how the final report is put in. But of course, this takes weeks and potentially months because in three basic parts. Part one is you put in the report. So I can show you how reports are done and the tricky things about reports. Secondly, the reports need to be authorized and accepted. And then thirdly, TRF needs to review it. And those are all done over a period of months. So to try and show that, I mean, we could talk about the steps, but to actually demonstrate it is just impossible because of the time required.
Does the system allow you to make up a fake grant? Just enter it, put it in, close it out, and then delete it from the system?
Nope.
Well,
Because
you can't report. So you can create a temporary a test grant, but you can't close it because it never gets approved, or report on it because it
Yeah.
never gets approved without approval. But
Yeah.
we're talking global grants here.
Yeah.
Global
Yeah.
grants. So until it gets approved, the reporting aspect doesn't open up. So you can't.
So we can take screen caps of what happens, what you see at the different levels, and we can certainly map out the the process, because I don't think I've ever seen a map of you do this, then you do that, then you do that, and then the grant happens, and then so we can definitely put that together. And to give you the sort of the 20,000-foot overview, because once you get in it, it's anybody who does global grants requires a little bit of courage, patience, and tenacity. And yeah, yeah, it just does.
And Randall, I see another of your questions here. Can expenses include wire transfer fees? And the answer is yes, if you included it in your budget as an expense. So bank fees are a legitimate expense on a grant. And if you didn't put it as an expense, then no. As in your budget, then no. But you can, including global grants, they allow that because there are often, when you're transferring funds overseas, the fees you pay here plus the fees that are paid at the other end. For global grants, then a practical part of that repayment comes into a question. In that typically on a global grant, TRF sends the funds to the host country, not to the international, not here. Because most of the funds are being spent on the ground in Timbuktu. They're not being spent in Canada. So the funds get transferred to a bank account for a global grant, to a bank account in the country on the ground dedicated to the global grant. Which means if you have a $50 bank fee in Canada, how does that get reimbursed to you? If you can figure it out, the answer is yes. However, there are often significant fees for receiving wire transfers in these countries, and those certainly, as long as you put them in your budget, are a legitimate expense of the grant.
Yeah, there's still 90 odd people on the line here. So it's pretty good.
So we're not talking to ourselves then.
No, we're not. This is worth remembering. From Rayla Judah, does the per capita club TRF contribution need to be made before the March 15th deadline in order to apply? The answer to that is no. It's you can still apply, but that needs to be in place before the grants are dispersed. So that's kind of when we look at that. So before we can make the payment. So that gives our clubs additional opportunities to get those TRF contributions up there. If anybody is concerned about the amount of money or where it currently stands, then I can certainly run the report and let anybody know. One from Bill Skinner, please make people aware that once you open a global grant number, you have 12 months to submit an application or you have to start over again.
Yes and no is the answer.
Yeah. In theory, the answer is yes.
In theory, yes. In practice, no.
And I have seen them canceled after 12 months. And then I've seen them not canceled after, like the one that we saw was 4 years old.
I suspect it has to do with editing the application.
Could be.
You go,
and from
and you make a change, now the timer starts again. So I mean that would be logical because it takes a long time to get the application, get all the bits. For some projects, I know I have one like that, and it's just taking forever. So that would seem logical to me that you make a change, the timer starts again. But then if you don't touch it for 12 months.
From Steve Gasser, does TRF only match the district funds at 80% and not the contribution from the club? Yeah, that is correct. It's the district contribution that's matched.
That changed about 4 or 5 years ago. They used to, but that's 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yeah, and from Sunny, the maximum number of district supporting grants that can be added to an application. As far as I know, there's no limit.
Yeah, go for it. Let's see, we have 47 clubs in our
Yeah.
district. So if a
Yeah.
lead club, you could, I guess, have 46. There's the,
Yeah.
the limit.
To me, that's kind of the size of your address book, because you can be reaching out to clubs all over the world, although we don't fund, we don't match supporting contributions that come from clubs outside the district, but there can be some very, very large global grant projects.
I had 150 clubs on a project once, so that was amazing. A lot of work, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So there is a question about receipts, electronically sufficient. Certainly for any of the district grants, electronic receipts are satisfactory. You don't need all the boxes of paper. As long as they're accessible by more, they can't be on an individual's computer, because if they leave Rotary, coming back to the financial management plan, that individual leaves Rotary, all those records are gone. No different a little than paper for that matter. If it's stored in somebody's bookcase
Yeah.
in their office, it's the same thing. It is important that all the financial information be available to more than the one person, however it's recorded. Global grants, I have to admit, I'm not sure. I know most of the places I've dealt with, and global grants can end up having thousands of receipts. They do store, and often they are not electronic, they are physical in many of the developing countries. They don't do electronic receipting, it's all physical. So all the paper is stored on site.
Mhm.
And you don't have to bring it back to Canada. It could stay
Mhm.
on the other side of the planet.
Mhm. Yeah, the next one in the chat is actually one from Randall here. Can expenses include wire transfer
Yeah,
fees?
you got-
Yeah, we got that one. Yeah, okay. And from Garfield, basically was same question as Sheila about the electronic. Often payments are made electronically, not by check. What is accepted as proof of payment when electronic payments are made?
Uh, your bank statement showing the payment made, as long as it's clear who it was made to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you still need supporting receipts and or invoices. But
Mm-hmm.
that would be considered proof of that you actually paid it. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And from Pauline Simpson, if you're a supporting club, if you're a supporting club, either global or district, do you need to do reporting, or is that the responsibility of the lead club? Also assigning priority code, does the lead club do this?
So the reporting, the answer is the lead club only reports. The supporting clubs for global and district grants have no reporting responsibilities at all.
Yeah, yeah. And the second part of it, assigning a priority code, does the lead club do that? That one is a little bit tricky. I would say depends on the situation. We really have to look at those on a one-off basis. We say that we want all clubs to evaluate their priorities the same, but we often find that they don't. So then we have to get back in touch with the club and understand what it is they're trying to accomplish, and see if we can't get those priorities aligned. That's a little bit of a fiddly one that takes some work on our part to get everybody lined up. From Lori Ann, where can we go to find information, guidelines, frameworks for needs assessments? The RI website has a fantastic collection of resources on that, including some online courses. We'll link kind of the best of it on the district grants website. But I always direct people to rotary.org for the latest and the greatest.
I see another one about a global grant. Can you partner with a local NGO? The answer is no. This is a Rotary Foundation rule. A global grant must always have a Rotary Club on the ground, or as Barb mentioned, where there is a local Rotary Club, you need a Rotary Club on the ground. TRF will make exceptions where there are no local Rotary clubs. However, you still need a host club that is responsible for what happens on the ground.
Mhm.
But definitely you do need 2 Rotary clubs for a global grant.
Mhm.
At least 2.
Yeah, and there's a comment here just at the bottom of the list from Sunny. There was a limit of 5 District 5360 supporting grants per grant. I don't remember that. Yeah, I don't think we've seen much more than that. Anyways, I think that's all the questions that were in the Q&A.
Maybe we'll have to review that and see if that actually is a rule.
Yeah. Yeah, if Sunny, you're still on, I'll look and see if I can find that.
I think we did have a limit of 5 supporting clubs. We want to encourage collaboration. However, we want to make sure the funds are available to as many clubs as possible. So it's trying to,
Yeah.
where do we reach that balance?
Mhm.
And I think based on
Right.
his, the number 5 came up as the
That's
number.
really an important point because all the money could end up going to a couple of big clubs and that wouldn't be fair to the small clubs.
Right. So I'm looking at district grants. I don't see a limit in district grant. I'm looking at our district grant terms and conditions document. Scanning, I don't see a limit for district grant pooling. I'm scrolling, trying to
I think
find
we
it.
had 10 on that home space grant a couple of years ago.
Correct. We had a whole raft of them anyway.
Heritage Park is taking forward one with an expected
Oh,
quite a
here we go.
few as well.
Actually, it's 3 supporting club applications for a global grant. I found that in the terms and conditions document.
Oh,
3.
3. It isn't unlimited. It's 3.
And I believe that was the result of one specific grant we had in the district that got huge. And then it cut off the money for other projects.
And in fact, that's the one that ended up being withdrawn. And suddenly a huge amount of funds became available again. Yeah.
It's my understanding there may be one withdrawn from this year's approved ones as well, but that's still up to the people who have submitted the grant.
I think we're done.
That's good.
Yeah.
so much
So,
information.
yeah, I think Barb, in answer to your first question, what I'd like to do, if everybody agrees, is actually on the grants website, actually have like a running tick counter that sort of shows what the available DDF is at any point in time. And then as the various projects get funded, we'll update that accordingly. As I've been thinking a lot lately about some of your comments to me around how we can make this all more transparent. So I think that might be a viable thing to do.
Be absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And pertaining to the AGLC funds and how you can use them, Mike Moore sent me information. Apparently, they had an AGLC representative do a session for the, what's it called now? The Calgary Rotary Clubs found, no. I'm on the wrong email. Anyway, for the Calgary clubs that do community service work. So it was just for that group. But I think it would be useful for all Rotarians in our district and district to the north, because the project I'm moving money on now after approval, all the money came from the district to the north, and much of it was from AGLC funds.
Mhm.
So I think they would be interested as well.
So-
Craig, our district website where you want to put the counter on it, doesn't that fall under club runners responsibility? We have to request they make the changes, or do we have the power to make those changes to the website ourselves?
Oh, we have the power to make that kind of change ourselves. I'm not talking about a fancy thing that sort
Okay.
of pulls
Yeah.
from a data source somewhere, and just talking about pasting in the number on the latest version of the spreadsheet that I've got.
Quick question, Craig.
Uh-huh.
Electronic copy of the slides will be sent to all the participants, is that correct? Or a link to an electronic copy?
My preference is for a link to the electronic copy rather than because it's a big slide deck, and what
Yeah,
I
no,
actually
get it.
do is I break it down into the sections. So if someone's interested in the district grant piece, they don't get the whole deck.
And that will be
Uh,
sent to all the participants, the link.
So what I'll do is I will post the slides on the district website. I'll post the recording of the session, and I always edit out the breaks and all these sidebar conversations on the district YouTube channel. Put a link to that on the website, and then what I'll do is I'll send out a link to all the participants that I have that says this is the website, and this is where you go for this stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna jump off.
Okay.
See you
Yep.
guys.
Me
See
too.
ya.
I think we've hit the end.
Yeah. See you
Yes.
November 1st.
See-
November 1st. Get your ticket. I expect all of you there. Okay,
I've got my ticket. I've joined the
Perfect.
Polio Plus Society.
awesome.
I'm
Maya
good. Yeah.
Devi tonight, I think, though. Are you going to be there?
Yep. Maya
Yeah,
Devi
yeah, I'll be
tonight,
there. Yeah.
Polio
Yeah.
coming up. We're going to Red Deer for their black tie bingo. It's party doing good.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay, see you guys.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.